Hey everybody, this is Pastor Carl, and this week my wife has now told me that I'm not allowed to make any more sweets for a while because that seems to be all that we're doing now that we are in the midst of this pandemic. And so I thought about what I could make for a delicious Devo this week, and we're not going to make something very delicious at all, but we are going to make something fun. Today we are going to learn how to make homemade Play-Doh if you've never made it before. And it was really fun for anybody and not just kids. So I'm excited to make it and to play with it myself and play with it with my kids. Here we go. Today we're going to start with 1 cup of flour. Next we're going to add a half a cup of salt. Finally, we are going to gradually stir in about a half a cup of water. I'm going to put my phone down so I can stir that up, but in a minute you'll see what it looks like. After you get it all mixed together, you're just going to want to knead it some. It might be a little bit tacky at first, and you might need to add some more flour to get it to be a little less tacky, or a little bit more water if it gets too dry and cakey and starts falling apart. But after a little while, it's going to end up looking a little bit something like this. I got a little bit more kneading to go, but we are in a good position to add color here in a minute. All right, so here we go. We have our Play-Doh made, and you can play with it like this if you want to. It's perfectly fine to play with. The kids will love it, but I know 2 kids who are really going to like it if we add some red food coloring to it to make the Play-Doh red. So you're just going to add, if you want to make it into 4 separate piles, you can do 4 different colors and add 5 to 10 drops each, or you can take this whole thing and you can start by adding about 20 drops. And this part gets messy, that's why I like to keep doing it in the bowl. But you can start by adding 20 drops and then add more if you need to. At my second devotional in the week, we usually talk about delicious stuff. We talk about words for nourishment, and the Play-Doh I've made, even while it's going to be fun, it is not really something that makes me think of nourishment. And so today we're going to just talk words for encouragement, words that we can recognize that we are still remaining together with one another, even with all that's going on. And so I just want to look at a couple lines from the book of Job. In the book of Job, we meet this guy who everything is going terrible in his life. And he's not just having a no good bad day, he is having the no good worst moment crisis in his life. His children have died. He's lost everything he ever had. He's sitting on a sick bed covered in boils, and his friends have come to see him and take care of him, only to turn on him and to say, this is all your fault. You are to blame. You know, that's a little bit of what it feels like now with everything going on with COVID. And it's easy to wonder why God is letting this sort of thing happen, and it's easy to even question God in these times. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to question God. Job does it for 40 chapters, and God comes down to him, and God makes it known that Job talks about stuff he didn't know anything about, but God also shares that God is taking care of not just Job, but the entire world in this time. We read God in just one part of this passage. He talks about this Leviathan, this sea monster in chapter 41 and verses 3 through 5. We hear God say, well, this sea monster, this Leviathan, will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Will it make an agreement with you for you to take it as slave for life? Can you make a pet of this sea monster like a bird and put it on a leash for the young women in your house? What we see here is God's ability to domesticate even the most fearsome of enemies, the most fearsome of foes. If God can do that with a sea monster, what we're hearing is God can really do this with anything. And while COVID isn't getting better today and probably not tomorrow, we do know that there's an end in sight. We know that God is empowering nurses and doctors to treat it. God is empowering epidemiologists and researchers to find a cure through a vaccine for it. God is doing so many things to make sure that at some point we're not going to worry about it. It's going to be like the dog in our house that at one point was a wolf, or this Leviathan that walks through our house on a leash that people were so afraid of. And God makes it something we don't even have to worry about in the least. Friends, we're still in a difficult time like Job was, but the good news is we know that we will not always be in this difficult time. So friends, I hope these words are encouragement. I hope you take them as a way to give thanks that God is still with you, God is still taking care of you, and that God has not forsaken you. Now let's see how God has called us to lives of a little bit more fun. Hey Wes, what is it?
Play-Doh.
Say, hey guys, I got Play-Doh.
Hey guys, I got Play-Doh.
All right, play along.